Good morning and welcome to Coffee with Tina. I am Tina Swithin. This morning we are going to talk about a really important topic. It is a question that came through: what to say when my toddler talks about how bad dad is. Child is sad, child is confused. And, I know that we can all relate to this topic, whether, the child is very young or older. These are things that we're all dealing with. So, a couple of housekeeping items and shout outs. Number one, I tried to go live on Instagram to no avail. It is Mercury in retrograde. It is also Friday the 13th, apparently. So, for whatever reason, we were not successful in going live. I thought I would come over here and record, and then we'll share it out on all of the channels from there. I am the author of Divorcing a Narcissist. I am founder of One Mom's Battle, CEO of the High Conflict Divorce Coach Certification Program, where we just kicked off the winter session. We are coming up on the end of week 1, which is so exciting. We have a family law attorney in the program on this go round and a couple of other professionals, which always gives me a lot of hope. Fine print. I am not an attorney. I am not qualified to give you legal advice. We are a community of survivors who come together and talk about all things divorcing a narcissist or child custody issues whenever a narcissist is involved. But always consult with your attorney. They should be your voice and your advocate inside and outside of the courtroom. Couple of shout outs. If you have not seen our new website, we've partnered with Breaking Code Silence to pull reunification camps under their umbrella of the troubled teen industry. And the reality is, these are not troubled teens. Some of them may be, but I will tell you, reunification camps are never, ever the answer. I encourage you to go over to alienationindustry.com, educate yourself. If there is something that we should have, added in there, court transcripts, information on these alienationists, these professionals who are making ungodly amounts of money in this multi-level marketing scheme of the family court system, by all means, reach out and let us know. Let's see, what else? 50 protests in 50 states. We are kicking off on Tuesday, January 17th. We will be in Sacramento at the state capitol from 9 a.m. Pacific until noon. We're also meeting with Senator John Laird, and we're encouraging others, meet with your representatives. Let them know about the crisis in the family court system. And then when legislation comes through related to child safety in family court, they need to support these things. And, asking for a ban on reunification camps. These are absolutely not in a child's best interest. If they haven't seen the videos of Maya and Sebastian Ling in Santa Cruz, or Oren, Camille, and Wolf Hami out of Los Angeles, the two older children in that case were taken right off the street in front of Stanley Moss Courthouse, right off the sidewalk, and ripped away by complete strangers, shoved into a waiting vehicle. It's hard to grasp that these things are happening and that now these alienation professionals in this very lucrative industry have become so brazen that they're doing this in broad daylight or with cameras rolling. And if these children are being treated this way with people watching and cameras rolling, what is happening behind closed doors? I can tell you, because we have survivor stories, children who have been through these camps who have now aged out of the system. And we've shared a lot of those stories on alienationindustry.com. The case in Los Angeles, both parents are very high profile musicians. And because I was given that video due to my work as a blogger and whistleblower and exposing these issues, I had this person, his name is Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age. I had never heard of this guy until December. And he didn't. He hired a process server to come into my home, into my gate, onto my property, and knock on my door and violate my peace and serve me with three subpoenas to appear in a hearing that I have nothing to offer, to be deposed. One of his attorneys is Alan Jackson, who represented Harvey Weinstein, which that speaks volumes, and then to come to his trial as a witness in Los Angeles in February. So I've had to hire an attorney to help me with this. I actually started a GoFundMe because I have no idea what the cost is going to be. But we all know that bullies utilize the court system to further isolate their victims. They utilize, this person has unlimited resources, and he's coming at me to intimidate me, to flex his attorney muscles and all of this stuff. And I refuse to give in to this because it is coercive control. It's a way to further isolate his ex-wife, Brody Dahl, who is from the Distillers, who is a member of our OMB Instagram community. And, it's unbelievable what this person is doing. And it's not because he's concerned about his image, and that he has been exposed for what he has done to these kids by having them taken off a sidewalk in such a horrible fashion by complete strangers and sent to Randy Rand's Building Family Bridges of all of these camps. This guy is the most notorious. You can read the survivor stories on alienationindustry.com. Most of those are related to Randy Rand. So we've filed, sent over something with the First Amendment Coalition, citing my right to speak out on these issues as a blogger. And I hired an attorney yesterday, and yesterday we filed some motions to quash. So, anywhere you can share this story, I would be grateful, because this is abuse of the system, and it's abusive. So we will be Sacramento Tuesday. On Friday, we will be at the Watsonville Courthouse in Santa Cruz. This is the 90-day review hearing for the case of Maya and Sebastian Lang in Santa Cruz. I can almost predict what's going to happen, because these cases are all the same. The judge or whoever the professionals are, they say, oh, it's a 4-day camp. It's not a 4-day camp. It's a 4-day camp or longer. Plus, then you add on a 90-day blackout period, which is never 90 days. These people are I'm willing to bet money that these people are going to go into court and say that they need more time to block this parent from his children. And it's so predictable. There's a mom in Texas who hasn't seen her kids in 3.5 years. There's a mom in Montana. She's gone public with her story, hasn't seen her kids in 4 years. And all of these started with the 90-day blackout period. It's insane. Get involved in our efforts. 50 protests, 50 states at gmail.com. We already have some states scheduled and on board: Ohio, Florida, Pennsylvania, Michigan. New Jersey is going to be on June 1st. I know that. And we need all hands on deck. We need to continue to get even louder, We need media attention. Help us if you have contacts in the media to gain exposure on these things. Please help us spread the word. So, to the topic. What to say when my toddler talks about how bad dad is. Mom says, child is sad and confused. So my thoughts on this topic are twofold. There's a reality to what we should be able to say to our children in situations where they are in unhealthy or abusive or toxic situations because of court orders that force this. And then there's the fact that, we are under a microscope by the family court system, and that microscope is actually getting more intense as a result of this BS alienation, pseudoscience debunked concept. So here's the thing, there is no rule book when it comes to motherhood. I have yet to find one. If you know where one is, you let me know. And I've told my kids for years, you guys, you did not come with an instruction manual. I am just winging it over here and I'm doing my best. And my best looks different every day and I make a lot of mistakes. I don't know anyone who couldn't say that. There is the mom guilt that we feel naturally, and there is what society, what the expectations are, what's shoved down our throat, the judgment, the mom judgment that I see between moms on social media. And, it makes me want to go buy a cute little farm and live in a tiny house with miniature goats or something. I don't know. All of it is a lot. And this can be a difficult path, even if you don't have the family court system breathing down your neck. And, every single thing we do is up for judgment and sometimes punishment in a lot of situations. We are encouraged to talk to our kids about playground bullies, and we're encouraged to teach our children about healthy boundaries when it comes to their body. But once you enter the family court system, you are under such scrutiny that if you try to teach your children about bullies and they happen to associate, the topic and connect the dots, that the bully in their life is actually this, man-child narcissist, or, in some cases it is a female parent who is disordered or toxic. These things can affect your case depending on who the players are, all of the variables in your case, who the judge is, all of those things weigh in. So there's never a one-size-fits-all approach. If you try to teach your kids about boundaries related to their body, and there are allegations of sexual abuse in place, you will be accused of coaching your children. I know of a mom whose daughter is being molested, and when CPS came in to do home visits, this mom had a huge bookshelf. I think she had like 84 children's books. They zeroed in on the, 3 or 4 books that talked about, good touch, bad touch, and boundaries regarding your body. And they have blown that out of proportion to make this mom look like the problem. So we've got this BS junk science of the alienation world and professionals. It has turned everything upside down in family court. And suddenly the children who are empowered or have a voice become a threat to the narrative that these professionals are trying to create. They prioritize parental rights over child safety. It is the Twilight Zone. When claims of coaching or enmeshment or gatekeeping or alienation trump solid accusations and findings of abuse. You wonder, I ask myself all the time, what planet am I on? Am I the problem? Is there some disconnect with me in reality that these things are happening? It's the case out of Los Angeles that I mentioned earlier, the Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age. Brody Dahl had a finding of domestic violence in her case against him. That is really difficult to obtain in family court. And usually we see that as the end all be all. It secures legal custody. It gives you, you can move out of state easier, things like that. That is not what is happening in this case. Not only did she have a finding of domestic violence, not only did she and her teenage daughter each have restraining orders against this man, her daughter got a 2-year restraining order. I believe she was 15 years old. And then on top of that, in California, kids are supposed to have a voice at 14. I just wrote a blog about that at the One Mom's Battle website about, we are taught that there's this magical age in each state that our kids are finally heard. And I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but that's truly up to the discretion of the judge. Maya up in Santa Cruz, she turned 16 this month from what her friends have said, and she should have had a voice, but we all saw that she did not. These things are so broken. The fact that a child in Los Angeles can be sent into a reunification camp to reconnect with an abuser who she had a restraining order against, an active restraining order against at the time. And from what I've seen, it was dropped shortly after, I believe a month or so after she went into this reunification program. I'm willing to bet that there was coercive control and threats or intimidation or promises made to get her to drop that. It is also twisted and it's also wrong. And this is another area where, unfortunately, radical acceptance comes into play. And I get tired of hearing myself say that phrase, because we should not have to go along with things that are so wrong and so illogical. But I'll tell you, most of us don't have the bandwidth to deal with this toxic individual who is dead set on counter-parenting and hurting us and controlling us by utilizing the children, that we don't have the energy to take on the system in addition to that. And when you do try to take on the system, you run the risk of losing your children. And we hear these stories and see it happen all the time. What is happening when it comes to this debunked, denounced concept of alienation is terrifying. It has infiltrated. And, I recently heard that Lynn Steinberg testified in a case here in my area. And that just shook me, because, I'm wanting to rush the courthouse and educate them and, show them the video of her speaking. This lady should, in my opinion, never be around children, ever, let alone be given a platform and label herself as an expert when she is misleading courts about her credentials and about who she is and about what she does. She claims to be an expert on child sexual abuse, yet she takes an accused child molester's word that he did not molest his daughter because he has diabetes and apparently he can't get an erection. That's what he told her. If you don't know what I am talking about, I would prefer to let her own words, for you to listen to this video where she's talking about this. And on the One Mom's Battle Instagram, it is pinned to the top, to the profile, because it is so important that everyone understands that these are the individuals our family courts are giving a platform as experts, and these are the people who are weighing in and putting our children in danger. And we truly need all hands on deck to raise awareness on this. And if you aren't able to have a voice in the system right now, have your friends and family share these messages, share what we are doing, share the information on the protests across the U.S. with representatives, with elected officials on their personal pages. You know, in the video I'm referencing with Lynn Steinberg, the blonde lady sitting next to her in that video, who looks like a Craig Childress cult member, is actually an attorney here in California. I could not believe that when I heard it. Her name's Virginia something or other. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But boy, do we have an issue on our hands when the attorneys are so deeply entrenched in the alienation movement. My belief is they should lose their license to practice if they are peddling this junk science. So back to the topic, because I can go down so many rabbit holes and I'm so passionate about these issues. You know, the reality and weaving radical acceptance back into this, people need to be doing everything in their power to safeguard against these claims of alienation. If you're being accused of gatekeeping, enmeshment, any of those words, or if the professionals are, you know, saying you're coaching, any of that, you have to sit up a little bit straighter and really pay attention. It's not fair. It's absolute bullshit. We shouldn't have to be worried about this, but we have to be worried about this. There are so, you know, work with one of the coaches from my graduate program, my coach training program. You can connect with them at myhighconflictdivorcecoach.com. We do work to educate that it only takes one person to create a high conflict situation, but they can help you to safeguard your case when it comes to this topic, because we all need to be paying attention. If you're interested, there's also an online course on the One Mom's Battle site. Click online courses. I do a 1 hour, I believe it's around an hour, segment on how to safeguard your case from these claims. If you're already being accused of it, you know, depending on how far down that path you are, there still could be some helpful tips that you can start turning things around on your end. Because the biggest mistake I see people make is they know who the other person is. And they are, you know, they've had this huge aha moment and they expect that everybody else should know, but they aren't going to. And when we're so focused on that, we do not present well. And we have to remember that the court doesn't know us either. And for all they know, we are the problem. And it has given me incredible insight to sit in courtrooms, watch proceedings on Zoom, especially in cases that I don't know either party. And I see constantly where people misstep and how, you know, they feel their actions are justified and they're wanting to protect their child from this unhealthy person, but their actions and how they go about it actually hurt their case. So again, I am not an attorney. Ultimately, your attorney is hopefully very skilled on these things. But if you need that extra support, you know, a coach who has been trained in our program, the divorce coach industry has infiltrated, and some of the advice I see people posting terrifies me. And I think they have the potential of doing a lot of damage. And, you know, I highly recommend the coaches who have gone through the training in our program who really have a deep understanding of the system. So again, it's myhighconflictdivorcecoach.com or my course on safeguarding your case against claims of alienation on the One Mom's Battle site. But, you know, I want to share a little bit more, and then I'm going to share some advice from the battlefield, other people who weighed in on this topic. And it's important also because we all have different perspectives and lenses to look through. So I remember being reprimanded by a child custody evaluator who told me that I should not respond to my children with, "I miss you too," when they tell me that they miss me. Because apparently when I respond that way to them, you know, "I miss you, Mom, I miss you too, I'll see you on Sunday." That was the extent of our conversation. It wasn't like, I miss you, Mom. And I was saying, I miss you too. I'm sitting here sad and crying and depressed. It wasn't that. It was literally me just saying, I miss you too, honey, and I'll see you on Sunday. I can't wait. She told me that when I say that, I am making them responsible for my feelings. That is a natural response to anybody who says, I miss you. It's an automated response. And when we have a child who is expressing these feelings and using their voice, they should feel validated. And it's unnatural for a child to be ripped away from their primary parent. Yet I am not allowed to say, I miss you too. That is just one of 1,000 things that I could share from my own experience or from what I hear others subjected to in this system. I remember another occasion where, well, in general, my ex-husband's platform was abuse, a variety of different forms of abuse. But, this is a time when my ex-husband was being very abusive to my daughters. And that same custody evaluator told me that I needed to start telling them, because we were talking about their resistance to go to his parenting time, which I understood. And she said that I needed to tell them, and her name is Noelia de la Torre. She's since retired, thank God. But she said I had to say, you are going to have a great time this weekend, and that I had to be above and beyond encouraging to them about their time with their dad. So, that felt like the wind knocked out of me, and I could have gone head to head with this lady. I could have told her to go F herself, which I felt like doing, and I thought in my mind. But I knew enough about the system at that point that I knew not to, injure her ego. And so many of these people have God complexes because of the power they are given. So I took some deep breaths and recentered, and I told her that we would reach a compromise. I would say to my daughters that I hope they have a good time with their dad on this particular weekend, because I truly did. That's what I wanted from my daughters from the moment I found out I was pregnant, was for them to have two happy, healthy parents in their lives and connections with both. I didn't realize at the time how sick he was. He was sick. He was abusive. So what do we say to our kids, when they come to us and they are expressing their thoughts, opinions, feelings on this topic? For me, it was important to validate how they were feeling, and really let them know that I heard them, and that's being at their level, that's looking them in the eyes, that's listening intently and being 100% present. And sometimes my kids would come to me with some pretty big, things in that category that I truly didn't know how to appropriately answer. And I remember I would say to them, I hear you, I understand how you're feeling, and I don't know the answer to this situation. So I think what we should do is wait till Tuesday night when we meet with Miss Sue, who was their therapist. And I would say, Mommy's toolbox, is smaller than Miss Sue's. Miss Sue has a big toolbox and a lot of information that she can share with you and tools that she can give you. And, and that, because there were times where I was afraid to say the wrong thing and how it can be misconstrued. And so then when I took my daughter to therapy, I would mention to Miss Sue privately, this is what came up in conversation Sunday. I wasn't sure how to respond appropriately. Some of these things come up and it's beyond my scope. And so I told Piper we would wait to talk to you, and that maybe you would have some helpful advice for her, or some, tools that you could give her, or just to listen to her. And obviously things like this need to be adjusted and appropriate to the child's age. When you are working with a child therapist who is more on the other side or doesn't get it, or is so calloused by the system or one of these rings of professionals who are in collusion, that's a different situation. In those cases, consider you consulting with a child therapist or a psychologist who comes recommended, who you trust, that you can help your child to fill their toolbox. So that's an option if you don't have someone good on your team. I am grateful that we did have several people over the years who did guide us on these things. So talking about feelings, validating, empowering in general terms, affirmation cards were a big thing for us, just general empowerment, never directed towards the other parent, but empowering our kids just in general terms. My daughters do have affirmation cards that they created at their website at pinkfireworks.com. I also want to defer people to Dr. Christine Cocciola. She is on Instagram. You can remind me I'll respond in the comments if I forget to put her link in the comments. But she is truly amazing on this topic of parenting our kids when we are in these difficult situations. And so I want to share now, before we close, some of the comments that I pulled from the battlefield. And I do always post these questions, or I try to, in the group ahead of time, because I like to share a variety of different perspectives. So this first one I'm going to read says, be sure to validate your child's feelings so they know you heard them and understand. It's important to say something like, I'm sorry you feel that your dad is bad. Do you want to tell me what makes you feel that way? Listen to what your child has to say and repeat it back so your child knows you heard them. Then focus on helping them to figure out how to cope and express their emotions instead of saying anything like, I agree with you, or anything else that expresses how you personally feel about dad. The goal is to make your child feel supported and comfortable without, I'm losing my place. Let's see. The end goal is to make your child feel supported and comfortable coming to you for support, despite what you may think kids know more than people ever give them credit. Yes. And if given the chance, they will see things for what they truly are on their own over time, supporting them, giving them safe and judgment-free space to talk about it. And I completely agree. And that actually made me think of, I gave it away to somebody because it's such a great thing. And I forget the website I found it on, but you can probably, Society 6, I believe it was. It's a big pillow and it's the feelings wheel. And so, when a child is feeling sad or defeated or, anxious or whatever it is, going to sit on the pillow or laying with the pillow and helping them to find their feelings on the wheel and talking about the different feelings. You could even use that pillow and the feelings wheel to just, pick a feeling and then tell me a time you felt like this. Keeping those conversations open and connecting with your kids, especially on the topic of emotions, is really important. So the next one that I have is, in instances like this, I sportscast what I see they are feeling. Quote, I see you are mad, sad, frustrated, angry, disappointed, whatever it is. I hear you say that. Thank you for sharing with me how you feel. I know it must be hard. I'm sorry you are experiencing this. I'm here for you. Do you want a hug? Or can I give you a hug? And that's really powerful. The next one is focus on your child and how he feels about things. The greatest gift I have given my daughter was a safe place to get out her anger and frustration and sadness over his actions. I reinforced it wasn't her and she wasn't responsible for his feelings. And I would add to that, or anyone's feelings. even though he tried to twist things around to make her think whatever it was her fault. Hello, gaslighting. She was about the same age as your son, so toddler. When this all started, she's 14 now. She clearly sees the truth. Teach critical thinking, teach critical thinking skills, examine behavior, not words he uses. I know it's hard. Can you get him into play therapy? So, that's some good advice. I encourage you, go over to the One Mom's Battle Facebook page. I posted this last night, so there's probably a whole bunch more comments by now. And thank you all for joining me today. I'm so sorry that we weren't able to go live and do this because I always enjoy that interaction. Again, connect with a divorce coach from our program. They are they serve as strategy partners. I wish everyone could have them on their team. The most feedback I receive from people is, I wish I would have been using a divorce coach from your program a long time ago because I already see how it saved me in attorney fees, because so many people are leaning on their attorney for emotional support. And, we have to stay in our lanes. There's a therapy lane, there is the legal attorney lane, and then there is what we do. And I think we can operate all together as an incredible team and really support people. So thank you all for joining me today, and we will share this on all the social media channels. Take care.